And we're back on another episode of We Making It Woo. Okay, so if you want to be a part of the conversation, remember to email me at katiesmiles.nyc@gmail.com. Remember, that's Katie because, yes, it's my name. Smile because what? My smile is cute. Dan told me this morning. Thank you, Dan. And NYC because that's where we at. We are going to get right into it. Guys, I finished Homie Don't Play That. We are totally going to talk about that book on another episode. I'm just not sure when, because I also know that we have to talk about the Whitney documentary. And my special guest actually really likes the Whitney documentary, so maybe we'll talk about that in just a second. So I did finish that book. This week, I read the February issue of GQ. There's a really great article in it. It's actually the letter to the editor. Shout out to, I think, William Welch. He started as GQ's like style person when he was 26. And now he's their editor-in-chief. If I'm going to misquote him, but it's something along the lines of music is the quintessential human expression. And it's a style of any time, is a derivative of the music that's being produced. And I thought that was such a provocative and thought-provoking point. And this issue is reflective of that. It's a really great issue if you are in Duane Reade's or any other magazine holder store. Feel free to grab one. There's also a great Q&A with Frank Ocean. And I know many people are great fans of Frank Ocean, as am I. And so he talks a bit about covers, which if you know me, you know I actually really love doing covers. And I won't spoil it, but I just think everybody should get this month's or last month's episode, because the month's almost over. This month's issue of GQ. So that's what I'm reading. What happened last night? Really quickly, I went to the Emerging Choreographer Series out in Long Island City. Shout out to Thrin Saxon, Joe Monteleone. Who else was there that I knew? Garrett Parker. Kelsey Burns was in a beautiful flamenco piece. And if I'm forgetting your name, I'm so sorry. But shout out to everybody up in the place. It's an emerging choreographer series. I thought they did a really good job of diversifying the bill. I was left with a lot of curiosities and questions. And I think that's the point of the work at the end of the day. So if you performed last night or you performed in that series, huge shout out to you. And also just huge shout out to that entire program. Giving artists an opportunity to make some money and make some dreams come true, make some dreams become realities. I'm always in support of that. So shout out to you guys. Without further ado, special guest, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Angie Pittman.
Angie Pittman, guys. We're excited.
I'm excited.
So Angie, we start the same way every week. What are you making?
Question. Well, first of all, magazine practice. Like, I think that's so great.
Really?
Yeah. GQ,
really?
I never picked up a GQ before, but I've recently just been reading a lot of magazines.
Yeah, I created my first vision board at the beginning of 2019. And I think I have this obsession with like cutting things out.
Yeah.
And I have really nice books, and I'm also, my girlfriend's not going to be happy if I cut them out.
Yeah.
So magazines, a little bit cheaper.
It's a little bit cheaper, and it's not as permanent, and
no.
You can pick it up, put it down. Like, I don't really care about it. Like, I just recently, well, not finished, but I've been carrying around Bitch magazine, the pleasure issue, which is really good, really, really good. But yeah, it feels, because right now I feel like whole books are a little bit too much of a commitment right now.
I
in
feel
this
that
production moment. So I'm like, yeah, I'll pick up a magazine and flip through it. And
yeah, the pictures, and also just like, how do you take in inspiration? And I do think magazines, maybe my book choices can get a little specific, whereas like magazines are not, they're specific to their thing. So I'm almost like getting a little treat to go off into this world. Because also, I didn't know GQ meant Gentleman's Quarterly.
Hello.
And I just kept flipping through the pages and I was like, where are all these dudes in here? Where are the women? Like, this is so stupid. And then it dawned on me like,
yeah,
I missed something there.
Yeah. flip through.
Yeah.
And I'm more likely to read a magazine in a bathtub than a book.
Are you one of those bathers? Like,
I'm a bather.
You really, like, you prune?
Yeah. And recently I've been bringing in fruits to the bathtub.
I'm sorry?
When you realize that you can eat in the tub, it changes everything. You get dehydrated in the tub. So when you go in and you can prolong your stay by bringing in water, tea, and then recently I discovered fruits and citrus.
You don't be okay.
And here's the next step. This is pleasure practice. The next step is like once you eat the fruits, then you can throw the peels in the water. So it's
sorry.
So it's like an antioxidant.
What is it?
It's like a little it's good for the skin.
I'm intrigued by your commitment, really, to make this bath experience really check all the boxes.
Yeah,
Are you clean?
Yes.
Yes. Are you full of antioxidants? Yes. Are you hydrated?
Hello.
Yes. Are you fed? Yes. Are you kept? Are you warm?
Exactly. And this goes forward to how do I sustain myself through this production time?
Very nice. I'm here for this lovely segue, but let's go back. Yes, to magazine practices, but what?
Okay.
I know you're not making a piece about a bathtub. I mean, and if you are, a stand-in support. I support you wherever you need me to be. But yes, what are you making?
Yeah, this piece is not a bathtub. I am making. Right now. Tomorrow the show opens. I don't know how we need to talk about time in this recorded.
Oh, everybody knows I release on Mondays.
Okay.
So guys, this was recorded on Wednesday before the Monday.
I have a split bill show at Dance Space Project, and it's split between myself, Angie Pittman, and another choreographer. His name is Johnny Cruz Mercer. Johnny,
shout out to you. I really hope you've listened to at least one episode because Adrian was on the Adrian Ansley. Shout out to you. Was it episode 4? Who has a bill with who has a piece with Thomas Tiger Moore, and both of them dance for Johnny.
Oh, yes.
So we are all in good company.
And fun fact, Thomas worked at the acupuncture clinic that I used to work at.
So there you go.
Anyway.
All the black people know all the black people.
Actually. Yes, so I'm working on this piece. It's called Came Up in a Lonely Castle.
Yes.
It's, in quotation marks because that's actually a quote from an Anderson .Paak song.
Yeah.
The Bird. And I think when I tell that title to people and then they put it in their promo materials, they automatically italicize it because they think I don't know how to write the title of my dance, but it's in quotation marks because it's a quote from a song.
Shout out to you, Anderson .Paak. Tense is my shit.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, this piece is a lot of things, but it is 2 people are in it, myself and my collaborator Anita Mullen, who is an amazing woman who, I mean, I don't know how to talk about her. She's so many things. She's a Virgo. She's a grandmother. She's a sister. She is a mother. She's a friend. She's wonderful. And the piece is, kind of a meditation on and a prayer around quietness.
Okay.
And expressivity, Black expressivity.
Yeah.
Doing it on terms that I'm interested in and that I feel like I want to illuminate right now. And the piece was actually a lot inspired by, deep desires of myself, but it was mirrored in this book by Kevin Quashie. Have you heard of him?
Mm-mm.
He has this piece this whole book called The Sovereignty of Quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks a lot about gesture and interiority as important in the conversation of Black protest and rebellion, and how, you have to be loud, and but there's those quiet moments that actually make both sides of resistance.
Yeah, like a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
Can you? No, I don't want to interrupt. Go for it. Finish.
That's it.
I want to talk a bit about the difference between a meditation and a prayer, if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
What is that for you in this process? Was there a distinction between those two things?
It is.
What was the distinction?
And I don't know why I said meditation, so thank you for asking this question.
No, of course.
The language I've been using a lot is prayer. And prayer for me is a lot of things, but it is basically just an articulation of your own desires to yourself and or to God, whoever God is to you.
Right.
So it's like an interior desire or thought, but the audience is yourself. And I think what's important about that is it's inward and it is quiet and it's special and it's alone and it like, if more people prayed, then I think less shit would happen that is going down.
Explain why.
Yeah, I think prayer is, as a practice, is anti-capitalist. But how so? If capitalist is about gaining and desire, what's that distinction too? I'm thinking about it in terms of like transactions.
Okay.
And
like currency,
trade, and free labor. And, exploitation.
Okay.
All of these things that happen when you aren't in touch with your own body and in touch with other people's bodies.
I see.
And understanding the impact of your actions.
Right.
So if people spent more time, and I mean, this is a big statement, and I think it is a statement alongside other statements, but if people spent more time with their own bodies and actually figuring out what their desires are and what their body needs,
right,
that can create more empathy.
Right.
And
I guess the argument would be that if you knew your desires, maybe you aren't as easily, like, because capitalism operates a lot in like advertisement, and like if I can make you think that you want this thing, you'll invest in this thing despite better judgment. Whereas maybe what you're arguing is the opposite, that like if you are so confident and secure in what your body needs, you're not going to buy that thing or invest in that thing or be swayed by that thing or listen to that thing or watch that thing because it's across the gamut, just because you're not as easily swayed.
Or you're just more mindful about what you need.
Yeah.
So
Right. And then when needs aren't met, you can also be clear about what's going on rather than I just remember Oprah and Pema Chandran having this interview together, and they talked about how rage was just this ultimate fear. And I imagine one fear for a lot of people, especially dancers, is this fear of like not having your needs met or not being heard. And so I can imagine rage or depression or anxiety can be those really intense moments, but of a lot of maybe smaller fears or not being with self that then creates the larger thing.
Yeah.
And I think that just being able to make that really tangible gives people a point of access into this really large concept of prayer.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what brought you to that space?
Yeah. In many ways, I'm a quiet person. I don't know if you know this.
I think I do, actually.
Okay.
Because we, side note, guys, Jasmine Hearn, shout out to you. Angie and I are in a process with Jasmine Hearn, and we all operate in different spaces within rehearsal practice. And so, but I wouldn't say that you would necessarily quiet, but I also would not say that you were like dominating conversation. Like I feel like when you have a moment to speak, you speak. When you don't want to speak, you don't. Yeah, but I don't know if I would say that was quiet, maybe quieter than others.
Yes. Yes. I am getting louder as I grow older.
That's great.
Yeah, which I don't, yeah, it's something.
Or I mean, I think, hashtag growth.
Hashtag.
If I get any louder, my mom is probably going to be like, Khadidra.
I love it. But yeah, this piece is kind of like growing out. I mean, I was always a quiet kid. I was just like, I don't even think I like talked probably until I was 12. I don't know. It was something crazy like that. And even like through school, grad school, I was just always, I mean, I said my stuff, but I just like being quiet. It fills me with, I feel closer to myself when I'm quiet. And even in social situations, I don't like to talk if I don't want to talk.
Right.
So yeah, so this piece is sort of like moving into like once I started reading Kevin's book. I've never met him before, but I'm calling him by his first name.
Shout out to you, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Kev. Once I read that book, I was just like, oh, like I felt really affirmed.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and I wasn't ever like, oh, I'm going to make a piece, I'm going to do it. But it was kind of like, I continued to practice and I continued to make, and this piece ended up being very quiet. And I always feel this pressure, particularly, I mean, this is a whole nother thing, but particularly, there's always a pressure to be louder than I want to be. So I'm like, this is my piece. I can be, cultivate a space where the volume is a little bit calmer and subtle and nuanced. And I'm not saying that if you're loud, you're not subtle or nuanced, but I think there's this particular type of subtlety that can happen when you're quiet.
Right.
And I mean, from what your other comment about not being heard, I have this like recurring nightmare. I don't know. Do you have recurring nightmares?
Some, yeah.
Well, one that I had recently, and I was like, oh, this is why I'm making this piece, is it shows up in different ways, but not being able to communicate through your voice. Or, no, that's not it. Being able to communicate through your voice, but people not hearing me.
Yeah.
And
which is the same, literally. It's just almost the same.
Almost the same thing.
Right.
But this nightmare is so intense, but it shows up in different ways. Like sometimes I'm like screaming. Sometimes it's like an urgent thing where it's like, we need to leave the building. Listen to me right now. And nobody's listening to me. And then sometimes it's subtle. Like I'm like, hey, let's, turn the corner. And then people can't hear me. So I have this recurring nightmare that happens to me. And I think this piece probably has to do with that a little bit.
Right.
What are your recurring nightmares?
My recurring nightmares include, but are not limited to, I can fly or float depending on how you look at it.
Wow.
And it comes in a variety of ways. Like I can like almost like levitate, so I can lift my body from the ground.
Oh my gosh.
But I would be at like table level, and I can just lay there in the space, but off the ground. I've had one dream where I could float, and the more stressed I got, or like the question that I needed answered, the further I got from the answer, the higher I would go.
Whoa.
I've also had flying dreams where I was like in the sky watching the world, but I was like naked, like an embryo, and I could just see above.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not. Some of them are like the best dreams ever, and I always want to have them. But other ones are usually telltale signs that I am getting outside myself.
Wow, that's like your connection to the ground isn't there in that.
Yeah, and it at certain points it gets really, really scary in the dream
because you might just float away.
Or I come down and it's like this pit of loneliness because I finally come down and realize I'm not where I'm supposed to be, and I have no answer, and the dream ends.
Wow, another Anderson .Paak song.
Thank you, consciousness, because you're just really just like helping me out. But I do want to talk about this yin and yang of resistance because I was recently talking to Jasmine. Shout out to A. Akerson, who is going to be in workup soon. I'm going to, on social media, I'll post about it. And Ishmael Houston Jones. Those are two people that I've seen this. When you said quietness and resistance, it immediately brought me back to A's promo for workup. Is her lying down on the floor with a mic in her hand. And at one of the Dancing While Black meetings, Ishmael Houston Jones talked about the first time he was arrested.
Hello.
While laying down on the floor, I think knees were in like supine. And it really got me, just you saying that brought those images back to me. And I just maybe want to talk about a little bit about, like, do you feel a pressure to be louder because of maybe the ways in which you identify? So how much of that is, what are your pronouns? I'm not sure.
Yeah, she, her.
So you are femme identifying, you are identifying as a woman of color, you are somebody's child.
Yes.
How do those spaces, and then even the way that they intersect, you are from the South.
I mean, technically.
Yes, because where are you from? Virginia?
Yeah.
Girl, you know that's, girl, come on now. You know that's south of the Mason-Dixon. And I guess I bring those up because I know that there are connotations with each of those identifiers.
Yes. Yes.
And how do those play a role in maybe how you feel about resistance, what you need to resist, and then this need for quietness on top of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is, I think growing up Black and growing up a woman, a person who identifies as a woman, is just, I always knew that was like, it was hard. We know.
Right.
But I think what's hard about it is, I was talking about this to somebody recently, but the impossibility of it in terms of societal expectations.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that society and white people don't want us to exist. So of course we are going to get all of these mixed messages about how to be.
Right.
Like it's like impossible to be it's impossible to be polite and not angry and clear and quiet and loud, and so all of these messages that I'm receiving as to how I should be and how I should, mostly how I should not be as a Black woman taking up space. It is, it's just full of conflict.
Right.
That's hard to deal with as a child,
Right.
And these messages are coming at us at such a young age, and it's, whatever. So that is where I'm at with it. It just being like, oh, there's an impossibility, and
you can't be, and maybe when you say impossibility, you can't be all those things at all the same time.
I cannot be all of those things.
Right.
And I cannot be all of the things that that people are telling me to be.
Right.
And so all I can be is me,
which is
Whitney,
quiet.
Which is quiet.
But also, you were talking about the Whitney Houston documentary.
Which is the name of the Whitney Houston documentary. Circles. But
yeah.
But all I want to be is things that I know sustain me, things that I know that bring me joy, things that I know will prolong me, things that I know that are connected to my family and my mother and my community. And all of those things have to do with being quiet,
right? Which
is related to spirituality,
right?
Which is related to dancing, which is related to Blackness. So, I don't know if that answered your question, but those are words around that question.
Yeah. And do you feel like, as you relate quietness to Blackness, to dancing, do you feel like you're offering a different perspective, or do you feel like you're offering a perspective that isn't commonly seen?
Yeah, I think it might be not commonly seen. I don't want to say, it's just my perspective at the moment. I don't want to say that this is new. I don't want to say that it's never been done before.
Of course not.
Because it has not been. This isn't, it's not a new concept. But I'm just trying to speak my truth with right now. And I do, in my own practice, I feel like there's a need for that for me right now.
Right.
So.
And I guess what I was getting at too is if you haven't read Thousand Streams of Blackness, it's a great book. And shout out to Joya Powell, who gave me the book, and I really hard time in terms of my identity. But what I think I loved about that book and how that relates back to you is that book is a collection of essays from a variety of people who identify as Black, but on a spectrum. I think because of what is commodifiable, oftentimes Blackness has to look a certain way, though we are making great strides in it looking different. Even within the downtown dance scene, there are but so many people of color. And so within that, the conversations around people of color can just be can seem one-sided. And while I don't think it's new to be quiet, to bring quietness to work as it relates to resistance is new for me. And so I want to just be like, I'm really grateful that space is there and that you've allowed yourself to go there. Because as you do your thing and be the best you can be, like, that inspires other people to do the best that they can be, whether that's loud or quiet or whatever. And I think that's more than what anybody could ask for.
Thank you for saying that.
Of course. As someone that is not quiet and had to figure it out.
And you're like, yeah, you're you. I'm glad you're you.
Girl, I'm sure my teachers were not glad I was who I was. I'll never, and I bring this up only because I remember being, I think, in the 3rd grade, and Miss Lisea, shout out to Miss Pegley Lisea, who was an amazing teacher. Miss Lisea told me that the nail that sticks out gets hammered in.
Wow, that's a terrible.
And I was like, I think she meant it with the best intentions, though. Miss Lisea was an amazing teacher, but I really did learn the ramifications of that. That statement, because I often was the kid that was just a little louder, a little bit bolder. I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and I love conversation. And so how do we clarify what we need? When we are obviously in a position where we're constantly receiving feedback on how our needs affect other people. Because at the time I really couldn't understand what that meant. And I just remember the people that she wouldn't say that about, I was nothing like. So I was like, well, what? Shout out to Anna Reyes, who's also beautiful, like, and so smart. Anna Reyes was like super, like, quiet as hell. Girl, I was talking to, shout out to all my people from 1st grade. Taylor Jones, Taylor Davis, Taylor Cobb. Girl, I was talking to every damn body. I knew everybody. I think we had like 30 kids. All of them knew my name and who I was. And like, and I prided myself on that. And to this day, I still pride myself on that. But I bring that back only because when the boxes are so clear and the boxes that you fit into put you in a position of not having or not being heard or not being accepted, it can, to be honest, I think it can make you change your needs so that people are less affected or it's more convenient for other people. And I do think it is such a revolutionary act to put what you need first, as a way to say that if you need me to put me first. I think like I said, I think that's more than what anybody could ask for. But that said, that does bring into a lot of what I'm going to segue to, sustainability. That's a bold practice. Aside from these orange peels, it's all I can think of. Aside from these orange peels in this tub, because that's the only fruit peel. I don't think you got no damn apple peels up in there.
Not apple peels, but you could do pomegranate.
Oh,
that's next level.
You know, shout out to Yasmin at Gibney. Yasmin is from Turkey, and pomegranates are a sign of abundance and wealth in Turkey. So, like, are you conjuring wealth in your bathtub? And also, what other things are you doing to sustain yourself besides the bathtub?
Yeah, that's a good question. And a lot of baths. But I might be, also Raha. I work Anyway, I work at a place
Yeah.
as a house manager, and we had this New Year's Eve shift,
Yeah.
which is like 15 hours of work, but it's like a really good one and done do it. And I co-work with my friend Raha, and she brought in a pomegranate on New Year's Eve as
A sign of abundance. Let's bring in the new year with abundance.
Yes.
Yes.
And I so appreciated her for that. So
Yeah.
I am kicking this table. Great. Other parts of sustainability. Yeah, like I said before, I take a lot of baths. I spend a lot of time by myself. But honestly, that's a big question for me right now.
Okay.
Sustainability. In terms of what I need to keep going.
Yeah.
And what that looks like in the long term. But I do make my own soap, and I do use a lot of coconut oil and non-toxic body products.
Very nice. We got to talk about that because lotion, I'm dry and I cannot do the coconut oil. So off air, we'll talk about moisturizers because coconut oil, she leave me dry.
Yeah. So all of this is a part of sustainability for me. I think hydration and moisturizer is a way to sustain.
Do you find that by you making it,
mm-hmm.
or what do you find most sustainable, or what gives you that feeling of sustainability
mm-hmm.
when you make it on
mm-hmm.
your own, or when you use non-harmful products?
Yeah. I think being with the materials that I use to cleanse myself, like in a prolonged amount of time,
right?
Versus just like, I guess we're going back to transactions versus just buying it in a store or something.
Right.
I'm with the actual raw materials. I'm making it. And soap making is time. It takes a lot of time to make some soap. It takes probably like 2 months. It's like a 2-month practice. The soap has to cure for at least like 4 weeks.
Wow.
So it's a practice of patience. It's not like, I'm going to whip it up and then like go into the bathtub right now. It's like, no, you have your fats and you have your acids and you have to measure those. I'm not a mathematician, but like you have to actually use numbers and measure these to mix them together in order for the saponification process to happen.
Yeah.
And there's a possibility that process might not happen. Like if you used the wrong amount of either, then like the soap batch can fail and then you just have to start over.
Okay, so Angie, I'm going to be real logical for just a second.
Amazing.
What do you do if this soap don't work? You going to be dirty. Well, I mean, that's what I'm assuming. My bad for assuming. But I'm trying to think like, so what you going to do? You going to go down to the bodega and get your box of Dove? Like, what you going to do, girl? What you going to do?
There's always, I always have soap reserves. So I'm never like, I'm never like waiting like, oh my God, I'll have the soap in a day or two.
Like, damn, my elbows is ashy. My armpits is suspect. Like, damn.
Don't have any soap. Yeah, no. Yeah. So yeah, but also I've never, knock on wood, but none of my batches of soaps have never like not gone through. So
Great.
They've all have worked. They've all saponified.
Great. Shout out to the ashy elbows and them sweaty knees.
Yes. So yeah, spending time in practices that promote time, like patience.
Yeah, that's also revolutionary too, because also it also sounds like you're changing the currency that you operate in.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you, for example, I think about it like tribes back in Texas when we had to learn Texas history, they talked about like these tribes had these things that was their currency, and then they traded or bartered with based on what they had, and it sounds like you barter in time.
Mm-hmm.
So like if somebody can't operate in terms of time, then you can't deal with them. And so then like how does that conversation evolve as you, and please feel free to talk to me about when that's your sustainability practice, how does that affect the very capital scene that we operate in? Or does it? Maybe I'm
Yeah.
jumping to conclusions. I don't know.
No, you're not jumping. It's really, I mean, and that's where my question lies is like I love spending time. And the busier I get, obviously the less time there is.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm really trying to figure out like how, like when to protect, what to protect, like just time to stare out the window. Like when can I like take the bus instead of getting on the train,
Right.
or like I'm only gonna cram 2 rehearsals in instead of 3, or like how, but then it butts up against like, oh, I want to show up for people.
Right.
This is like actually my devotion. Like I love showing up for people and being present and actually like being in people's processes.
Right.
And being used in that way. So to people I love. But I think that, so that's a big question for me. And I think a goal for me is to observe like Sunday, like have a day, the Sabbath, if some people call it, like just to, like Sunday is a day where I'm not doing anything for anyone except me and or whoever I decide I want to spend time with. So.
And I too have Sundays. I do not work for really anybody, or I'm actually like Sunday is the day where I elect to say that's not the day. Like no. Like Saturday, great, but not Sunday.
Not Sunday.
And I'm not sure if it has anything to do, because I did grow up good old Black Baptist. Yes. So I'm not sure if it has anything to do with that. But going along to what you were saying, I do think creating personal boundaries is a form of resistance. And that's a boundary that I felt like I could maintain without losing a certain amount of like financial support and money, just basic money. But also without losing a certain amount of sanity. I hear that, and I too be chilling. I go grocery shopping on Sunday, walk through the aisles singing my songs.
Where's your grocery store? Is it close to your house?
No, so I go to the Whole Foods that's right there off of by BAM. The 365.
The new.
Yeah.
That new, right across.
Yes. Okay. They have the best, y'all. They have the best pomelos. Okay. And for those of you who don't know what a pomelo is, it's like a sweeter grapefruit, which is kind of nice because grapefruits can be a little tart. It's not to say that I don't like the tartness, but New York does not have ruby reds.
No.
I don't think they have ruby reds.
Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know why I said no so definitely.
I don't know. Because back home, we have ruby reds. And ruby reds are just as big as a pomelo, but they're usually much sweeter.
Yeah.
Whereas here they don't have that, and so it's like I just want something sweeter and less. But those pomelos, they're like $5 for one pomelo, and I know that it's not smart to spend $5 on one piece of fruit, but that piece of fruit, it's worth it, guys.
And it's worth your happiness. You're worth it. It's so
good. I sit on the bed every time I eat it, and I'm always just amazed.
So imagine yourself in a bath and doing that.
Okay. Here is my thing with the bathtub. First and foremost, I like really hot baths.
Okay. So like, you can't stay for long.
I be sweating. up a storm. I need a face cloth. Going back to my good old days.
I hear red.
I need to dab my forehead. I need some what is that? Janet Jackson. Yeah. Anytime, any place. I need some slow cuts because I'm hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the first and foremost. Second of all, we live with 4 people.
Okay.
I am suspect about the little bits and pieces that I see on this tub. I know I can clean it, but it just doesn't feel clean enough.
Yeah.
I was spoiled. At one point, I had a brand new tub.
Okay.
This tub ain't brand new. This ain't even brand. I don't even know. I don't know. And then no. And then also some of the people third and like up there. I have talked to a couple of you bathers. Shout out to Thrin Saxon. Shout out to Megan. They used to be an intern at Gibney. They told me that they would watch TV.
Yeah.
And then when the water got cold, they just put more water in there.
Yes.
Look.
What's wrong with?
Nothing.
Okay.
I'm here for you.
Okay.
I'm just about to be in this bed.
You don't got time.
It's not that I don't have time. I just don't. That's not time well
That's
spent.
not the time you want.
I'm getting pruny. I'm about to be ashier than ashy. I'm about to put some oil in that water to make sure that I'm not ashy. Whereas if I could be in the bed, I could have fuzzy socks on.
Yeah.
I could have sweatpants on. I think I'm a better.
Yeah. Okay.
If I could.
Yeah.
I mean.
Wow, we're so different.
If I could be in the bed, a good solid 2 hours or so, and then like have like a couple blankets because I like to be held. I like the weight.
Did you get a weight? Do you have a
girl?
weight?
No.
Okay,
No.
It's like 100. It's too much money.
No.
But,
Give me a throw and a quilt.
Okay.
And then also, I know this is like bad because you could technically suffocate, but like I burrow, so like sometimes when it's time to go to sleep, I pull the blankets like all the way over my face, and then put me in a hotel bed, and it's like heaven because I like bury myself underneath the pillows. I know this is like all those PT people out there. I know this is bad because obviously I'm on my belly when I do this, but I just love the weight. It feels like I'm going to be a mole.
Wow.
Under all the dirt.
This is fascinating.
But that would be my jam.
That's your thing. Okay.
But I'm also not going to eat. I just be asleep under there.
It's fine.
I'm also like a professional sleeper.
Great.
Like I can pass out. I'm in the car, planes, trains, automobiles. I am your girl. But before we get up out of here,
whoa, okay.
So many tangents.
We gotta get out. Okay.
How was this practice financially made sustainable? What were some things that you did?
I worked a lot, and
by work you mean.
Oh.
You mean like you have another job that...
That's a good question. I have a lot of jobs.
As we all do.
Yeah. So I just kept working, and I was like, hopefully... I'm really bad at... I'm like, hopefully it'll all work out. And it actually did.
Good.
But Dance Space's commission... And I actually worked pretty... I actually did my budget last night just to check in, see what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's pretty like coming out even, like in terms of the commission money that I'm getting and the money that I spent. It's actually great. Right. I spent a lot of time rehearsing with Anita in my living room for some parts of it. I work at Brooklyn Arts Exchange.
Yes. And shout out to Bax.
Shout out to Bax, Paloma McGregor, new artistic director.
Yes, congratulations on that huge directorship, Paloma.
Yeah. But I work in the youth education department there, and a part of that, I am a part of the professional development youth education faculty cohort, which is basically an intense group of people who we just talk about anti-racism and youth education. Yeah. And a part of that, it's fairly compensated, but a part of that is space. They give us space too. So I rehearsed at Bax a lot. So that was possible. Sometimes I paid myself, sometimes I didn't. Okay. Which, sustainability, that's a question. Yeah. But yeah, I was, What else? Did I have any other sort of... Dance Space Project was really good at when there's space that becomes available. If you're like an artist that they commission, they offer you a lot of space, like free space. So I utilized that a couple times, and I spent a lot of time just thinking about the dance, and I think that is cheaper than actually being in the studio and trying to figure it out. Yeah. I think about it a lot, in transit, and and I only have one other performer, and it's myself, and then I have a costume collaborator, Athena Cocaronis of the Domestic Performance Agency, and so I have a small group. I work small and I work closely, so I think it money-wise it works out.
That's amazing. And lastly, but certainly not least, what have been some takeaways or some new nuggets that once you perform, you kind of want to move forward with? Mm-hmm.
It's hard to answer that question because I'm so in it right now. The timing of this is like great. But I'm also like, let me get there the weekend. Yes, yes. So my reflection brain isn't
It's not on.
It's
and
not
maybe
on.
it doesn't need to be just yet.
Yeah, but there's a book that I'm reading called They Can't Kill. Ooh, what's it called? They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us.
Right.
By Hanif, and I'm forgetting Hanif's last name. But I've been reading it alongside this production week, and it's a collection of essays around like music. It's actually kind of, and I think he's a poet actually, but he does a lot of like music criticism that is like fantastic, and it's been really rocking me in really good ways. So I'm gonna continue reading that book and continue to be like to just spend time with it, because a collection of essays like that format has been really
I
nice.
love that format.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Toni Morrison. If you ever listen to me, I think you are heaven.
Yeah.
But she just released, I think, something in self-regard. I literally just was up Greenlight last night, and it's bright. It's like a nice pastel pink, but it's also a collection of essays. And for those of you who do not know, I do guest all my guests receive books as like compensation. So if you want to do that one, so you can tell me about it.
Okay.
I'm down.
Do you get your books from Greenlight?
I do get a lot of books from Greenlight. Okay. With you guys, some of the requests have been so hard from Greenlight, so that it just makes more sense to do Barnes & Noble. Okay. Also, coupons are readily accessible at Barnes & Noble, so it does depend. Yeah. But because I am a local, and Greenlight is like 2 blocks down, I try to support my local businesses when I can.
Amen.
But before we get up out of here, Angie, you got to plug us in. Where can we find you?
Woo. You can find me on Instagram.
What's your name on Instagram?
Oh, yeah. Just find me on Instagram. I'm out here. I just recently been into Instagram stories. Okay, my name on Instagram is Angela Ella, ANGELLA ELLA.
I love it.
It was back when, Rihanna had Umbrella.
Under my umbrella.
And it just stuck.
Yes, I'm here for it.
And I'm on the Facebooks, and I do have a website.
Yes.
AngiePittman.com. And yeah.
Yeah. Guys, remember that if you want to be a part of the conversation, just email me at katie.nyc@gmail.com. Guys, I just want to remind you that if you want to make it, you just got to make it live. You just got to make it breathe. But really, though, you just got to make it. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. All right, guys. I just want to give a huge shout out to Mike Brunn for writing and composing my intro song. The vocals are sang by Kuhu Verma. They both can be found on